Welcome into Training Camp Live, presented by Publix. Casey Phillips and Scott Smith here, and this is going to be a little bit of a different show than even we've already had. We've just gotten into rolling through those last couple days, and now, as you can see, the fields are a little bit empty behind us. We do have, at least right now, a nice shot of the quarterbacks doing a little bit of work because the entire team moved inside because of weather earlier on, so this may be the highlight of practice that we get to show you guys today. Hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully they do at least stay out here for a little bit longer so we can show you guys some of the stuff that's going on. But yes, they did move inside because of weather, so unfortunately we will not have as many of the live shots as we were able to have yesterday for you guys, but we are still going to be taking questions from all of you from YouTube and Facebook, so make sure you're getting those in, and we're going to get to those in our final segment here today. For now, we wanted to start with a couple of the overall. Oh,
first, yes? We did learn a little bit by the little bit that we got to see here.
That's true. Okay,
because they started right now. It's just the quarterbacks, but they started with quarterback center exchange, which is something you do at the beginning of just about every practice. And so you got 4 quarterbacks, so you needed 4 centers. Obviously, Ryan Jensen is your starter. Anthony Fabiano, we know, is labeled as a center, but we saw Aaron Stenney playing center. And then the 4th guy was the undrafted rookie out of Texas, Zach Shackelford. So they like to cross-train a lot of guys. I know if he needed, Ali Marpet could obviously go back to center. But those are 4 guys that right now are training at center. So yeah, at least we got one little tidbit out of that, right?
We got a little nugget for you guys. So that's always an exciting part. So first of all, let's go ahead and start with just any initial takeaways from yesterday's practice for you.
There was a lot of talk yesterday about the run game and the run defense. And it was funny because in the Zoom call after practice, one of the reporters asked Coach Arians, did it seem like the offense really dominated today? Because that happens some days. We've talked about that. One side or another will dominate. And he was very much against that. Bruce was like, no, not at all. There was very much an ebb and flow. One of the big drills they did was basically the opposite of goal line, where it's backed up, so you're at like the 1 or 2 yard line, but you're not going in, you're coming out. It's that difficult situation for an offense, like they just downed a punt at your 1 yard line, and you're probably not going to go 99 yards for a touchdown, but you just want to get at least a first down to get out of that terrible range and be able to not be punting from the back of your end zone, right? So the key is to be able to grind out a couple plays usually in the run. And they had some that worked really well for the offense, but the defense also won several. And, it's actually a really good thing for the offense is they had a couple good plays in that because they're going against the best run defense in the NFL. The Buccaneers had the best run defense in the NFL last year, and honestly, it wasn't even close. They allowed 73.8 yards per game, and the next team on the list was at about 86, something like that. I think we have a graphic for that. And there it is, 73.8. The Jets were 86.9. There's a bigger jump there between first and second place by twice as much as there is between second and fifth place on that list. So the Bucs' run defense was far and away the best in the league. And in fact, it was the best run defense this team's ever had. Did you know that, Casey?
That is pretty incredible.
This team has an incredible history of defense. But even like in the 2002 Super Bowl season, the pass defense was one of the best defenses that this league has ever seen. But the run defense was about, average. Usually you can't have it all. Look here's the graphic there. Now, this does eliminate the 1982 season, which was only 9 games long. But in seasons that are at least 14 games long, look how much of a difference there. That's the fewest rushing yards we've allowed.
That really is incredible. And I bet if you just sort of asked fans around the league or Bucs fans just generically how the defense was, everybody knew that, the Bucs defense, especially with rushing, did a good job last year. But there is such a lore about some other defenses that this team has had.
Sure.
That I don't know that people would have realized it was the best in the history of this franchise.
I'm not sure I realized what was going on until you look at the numbers.
It's incredible.
And that says a lot about Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea. Those guys in the middle got a lot of credit. But think about somebody yesterday, I think it was maybe it was Jason Pierre-Paul. Somebody said he thought we had the best front 7 in the entire league. And so you're talking about outside linebackers, the defensive linemen like Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, but it also includes the 2 inside linebackers, Devin White and Levante David. And it's possible that the Buccaneers have the best duo of inside linebackers in the NFL. It's a little early to say that because Devin White still needs to emerge as the star that we think he's going to. But Levante David, there's no doubting that this guy is a superstar. And you were talking about how maybe people don't realize how good the Bucs run defense was last year. They probably also don't realize how good Levante David was last year. He has continued to toil to be a star in a very quiet way, and a little bit of that's his personality, a little bit of that is the not as much attention paid. But look at this, and obviously when you see among linebackers in team history, second in sacks and interceptions, you could probably guess who he's second behind in most of these. Derek Brooks, right? Yes. Hall of Famer. And he's still got a ways to go. I mean, Levante's got many good years left in front of him. He's clearly one of the best linebackers this team has ever had, and this is a team that probably, if you pick any position, that they've had depth in star players throughout history. It's linebackers. So Levante David, very underappreciated, as we say all the time. Hopefully this is the year that changes. And then in terms of how he was against and compared to other linebackers last year, using I think these are again next gen stats. Look at that. First in solo tackles, but also the second highest graded coverage guy. And the tackles for loss thing, he was third last year, which is actually low for him. Right. He's since he came into the league, the only guy that has more tackles for loss than him is J.J. Watt, and most of those are sacks. Levante David's incredible, and we're happy that he's probably going to get more of a spotlight shined on him this year.
I have thought about that is actually one of the things that has excited me the most about Tom Brady coming, aside from the fact that, of course, the whole goal is to win games and all that, but the spotlight part, the fact that a guy like Levante David will get more attention is, to me, one of the biggest things that there is, because we stand on the Levante soapbox all the time. I mean, we know, Bucs fans know. Yeah. Everyone that calls himself a Bucs fan has to know the value Levante adds on the field, off the field, his leadership. I mean, we're doing some interviews right now that are going to air throughout the season that are called Ultimate Teammate, where we ask guys questions about their teammates, and a lot of them are fun and funny of who would make the best and worst, president on the team or things like that. But we've also asked a few that are things like, who have you learned the most from on the team? And several guys have said Levante, and they didn't even necessarily play a similar position to him. Okay. It was this idea of, they talked about learning how to be a pro like him, learning how to carry themselves, that he is a guy that it is on the field, off the field, the presence in there. And I remember last year, I think it was after the Tennessee game, you mentioned how Levante is a quieter guy in general, and that's maybe part of why he doesn't get as much attention.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Oh, my gosh, that game, that was one of the worst losses since I've been here, just in terms of what you felt in the locker room afterward of, we should not have lost that game.
They felt like they should have won that game.
They should have won that game. And what happened with Levante, he just went off.
Yeah, that was strange.
Oh, my gosh.
But everybody was listening.
I guarantee you, everybody was listening. All right, well, let's go ahead and head on to our Frontier play of the day. And, man, you guys are going to like this one. Check this out. When that happened, I was standing, at a nice, socially distanced place away. And that's what's even crazier. I wasn't right where that happened, but I was just down that sideline a little bit. That was a hard catch that Gronk made. Like, he had to reach for that. Like, and you could tell guys were fired up that he made that kind of catch. And then, I don't know if you could tell from that, he took a hit. And that also really excited me because of both ends of it. Of one, he took the hit, popped up, everything was fine. But who delivered the hit? It was Mike Edwards, and he leveled
no kidding
a hit on Gronk. And I thought to myself, like, props to Mike Edwards, because that is serious.
That's a freight train coming.
That is, and Mike Edwards is significantly smaller.
Yeah, he's not small
than Gronk. And it's interesting because we talked so much yesterday about that mismatch idea of tight ends.
Yes,
and Gronk and OJ are so big, and what do you do, and who do you put him on? Well, guess what? Like, that gave me a lot of confidence that if another team tried to do that to us, Mike Edwards was like, okay, fine, let's see how this goes. So it was great on both ends. Awesome. A great catch, a great hit. So I thought that was really awesome.
OJ Howard used the term "a room full of mismatches" when he's talking about the tight ends.
Yes,
he
absolutely.
When they're out there several of them at a time, it's hard to cover.
Yes. All right, we are going to go into another one of our Meet the Rookies videos. So here is Chappelle Russell.
I first started playing football in 8th grade regulation. Besides that, I was playing on backyard football. But when I finally did have the chance to play, my first position was wide receiver, defensive end, linebacker, running back, a little bit of everything. Growing up, like, real, like, young, like, through grade school, it wasn't really too much to complain about. It was just the location of where I was at. I was just bouncing around a lot. Like, being young, you don't really focus on that being that young. You just like, I'm in a new area. I finally settled down in New Jersey. And that's when things got hard. Actually, when I finally did settle down, it's crazy because that's when I actually started running into a lot of adversity. As far as living situations, transportation, everything. I was going through a whole lot. Once I finally thought, like, man, we're here, we settled. I was with my mom, my brother. And it's like we just started getting hit with like sledgehammers. Like, it was crazy. In high school, we got evicted out of our house. We had no home. Jumping from motel to motel to motel. I had to move in with my high school football coach's parents. Rest in peace to the lady. Her name was Barbara Clark. She was basically like another grandmother to me. She just passed away like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, to coronavirus. So that weighed on me as well, because like she took me in when I didn't have anything at all. So like I said, football brought me to that family as well. Like without football, I might have not even been able to live with them. Football was just a way for me to settle down. When a lot was going on at home, football was a way for me to just to get out there, let the emotions out, and just have fun with my guys. Football was also a way for me to go to college. You know, without football, I don't know if I would have been in college. I might have been in the military right now. My mom's in the military, so football just brought happiness within my family. Like seeing my mom at the games, you know, that was great. I never really even got the opportunity too much to even have my mom at games. I see myself contributing by just playing my role. I'm going to come in and do what I have to do to the fullest. Personally, I feel like that would be special teams. So special teams, I'm going to give Levante David, Devin White, Mitt, Jack. Like I'm going to give all these guys like everything, all I have, so they don't have to play special teams. You know, they can go out and play defense. And when my number is called and when it's ready for me to play defense, I guarantee I will come in. They don't have nothing to worry about. My biggest goal as a Buck, my individual goal was just to make the team. You know, I just want to make the team, come in and contribute, of course. My team goal was just, you know, we got all the hype. You know, we got TB now, we got Gronk, everybody looking at us now. We got the defense. So obviously the team goal will be to win everything. Why can't it be us? Why can't we go win everything?
It's a wrap on draft week, and it's undeniable. Bruce Arians and Jason Light have a little extra pep in their step. It could have something to do with the young talent that they plan to inject into an already promising roster. Or it could be the shockwave the Bucs gave the rest of the league when the week began.
Breaking news. Rob Gronkowski is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. No, really, I'm not kidding you. Rob Gronkowski is coming out of retirement, and the Patriots have agreed to terms on a deal that would send him to Tampa to be reunited with Tom Brady. It's Gronk and...
It was my first time off of sports, like in my whole entire life. It's, you know, my first time away from the game of football in about 15 years. I was trying to figure out myself, figure out about life and everything. And, you know, that's one thing that I found out about myself, is that I still have, you know, a lot left in the tank to give to the game of football, and that I enjoy playing it, and that's why I came back.
Wow, look at that baby. That's beautiful, man. That is beautiful, Brad. Wow. Yeah. And here we go. We got the white one right here. Ooh, this one's nice, too. This one's real nice. And the red one's nice too. But wow, Mother's Day gift right here. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. God, you just saved me.
Go. And 3, 2, 1, go for it.
On behalf of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we'd like to recognize all the frontline workers for their hard work and sacrifices made this year. Thank you, and go Bucs.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
We'll get the jam going now that we're done.
Get the jams going.
There's many words you can use to describe Rob Gronkowski, but the best one just might be reliable. After 9 seasons in the league, Gronk has proven that when he's at his best, you won't find a better option.
I gotta catch every pass, baby. There's no excuses here, baby. Let's go.
I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag. Why you trying to size me up? You don't wanna try your luck.
With Tom, man, we were just super pumped. Let me tell you this, like the build chemistry with another player just doesn't come like that. You got to build up that chemistry, and that chemistry was built up through the 9 years that we played together. We talked about how excited we were, but right away after the first 5 minutes, we said, all right, man, we got to get to work, big dog. Let's go.
Brady to Gronkowski all the way. Brady lost one for Gronkowski.
The Bucs have their eyes set on the postseason this year, and lucky for them, that's where Gronk dominates. He has the most receiving yards and touchdowns by a tight end in postseason history. Add to that the most receptions and receiving yards by a tight end in Super Bowl history. Oh yeah, then there's this.
Where's the bell?
Oh, I left that at home because if I had it on me, the people can start pinning me.
You know, I'm the 24/7 WWE title champ right now. It's something special. I was a big WWE fan growing up, but now I got to keep my head on a swirl.
It was short-lived, but until he gave up the title recently, Gronk was a 2-sport champion.
BA, he was already talking about it. He wants to come and take my belt away from me. I'll be ready, BA. If he wants to, you know, try something cheap, I can see that happening, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be ready.
Level. We ain't never settle, nah. Level up. Watch me level up. Watch me level up. Watch me.
Every day as a Tampa Bay
Thank
Buck,
you so
baby.
much, man.
What a day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
That was
Appreciate
great. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Welcome back into Training Camp Live, presented by Publix. Casey Phillips and Scott Smith here, and unfortunately, our quarterbacks went back inside, so our one shot we had for you guys out here is no more. It's so tragic. So now we just have a nice open field, so we hope that you guys are... There's football happening back there behind us. Okay, so first of all, I loved getting to see this Gronk package. It's awesome, and the whole in the current stuff is really great. But Gronk is just endlessly entertaining.
It still feels surreal that Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski are
It
Buccaneers.
really does. It's incredible. And we talked before we went into those videos about that great catch that Gronk had made at practice yesterday, and the great hit that Mike Edwards had made on him. And I mean, it's perfect because we wanted to talk about the safeties. So let's go ahead and start there. That is going to be such an interesting position battle to watch because there's a lot of positions on our team where there's like set starters locked in, like
almost all of them.
Almost all of them are like that, where you have Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, but then you're going to have a battle behind them. You have Shaq and JPP, and then you're going to have a battle behind them. This is a position where I feel like the whole thing is pretty up in the air. You have some guys that you think are kind of maybe leading the pack. They've had some starts in their past, but you got a draft pick. You got other guys still fighting for stuff. It feels more up in the air than almost any other position.
And I think Mike Edwards is off to a good start. And he was a rookie last year, third-round draft pick. Played a little bit at the beginning of the year, and then I think there were some minor injuries, and there was a revolving door at safety. Andrew Adams sort of stepped in for the second straight year and kind of solidified it next to Jordan Whitehead. And then at the end of the year, Jordan Whitehead missed the last few games on injury reserve. I think it was a hamstring. And Mike Edwards got back in there at the end of the year, and now he's back playing a lot, like getting a lot of first-team snaps and in his first few days, and he's made some splash plays. He made what looked like an interception yesterday, although Bruce Arians said he was out of bounds by a couple yards. I think he had another.
Which kind of matters a little bit in the grand scheme of whether or not it's an interception.
Yeah,
it looked pretty.
Statistically.
Like in terms of counting,
I think he had an interception during the OTAs. He had the hit you were just talking about. So I don't know if necessarily when people start talking about who's going to win the two starting safety spots if they start with Mike Edwards, but they probably ought to start putting him in that equation. I think he's got he's working real hard to be one of those two starting safeties. And remember, that was the first guy that the Buccaneers drafted with this current administration to play safety. So Justin Evans, who's on PUP, was already here. Jordan Whitehead was already here. Andrew Adams had already been here, although he left and we brought him back. They drafted this guy because they thought he was a good fit in their system. And one of those versatile safeties they like, who I'm not saying he's Tyrann Mathieu. He's not the Honey Badger necessarily. Maybe he could be at some point. But he's versatile, and you can do different things with him. Maybe put him in the slot and blitz him a little bit, that kind of thing. But he's got a shot. But really, the two guys that were the incumbents last year, if we look at all the safeties that are in this competition here, I think you got to start with Jordan Whitehead because he's the only guy who's basically been a starter for all of the last 2 years when he's been healthy. We've talked about how he's even more ripped than usual, and he's a hard hitter, and he's made a couple plays. I saw him get a pick on a play where basically the pass was one of those nice picks that safeties get when they're just standing there playing center field and a quarterback overthrows the target by about 10 yards.
Right.
I think this one got away from one of our QBs, but he did have to sort of make a nice sliding catch on it. You got Jordan Whitehead, you got Mike Edwards, we've got and then we got the rookie, Antoine Winfield, who you were talking about. Mm-hmm. He made a nice strip of a ball carrier the other day, and Coach Arians said that he's going to work his way into the competition quickly, is the way he put it.
Yeah, which is going to be really interesting to watch. And then you even have a couple guys, like a Dakota Dixon that Coach has praised a lot. We haven't seen him play at all, because of the fact that he got hurt. But he was rising up that depth chart last year at the start of camp. He went from playing with the 4s to the 1s in a matter of a few weeks. And then we found out that he'd had a shoulder injury during that. So he'd worked his way up the depth chart with a shoulder injury that required surgery.
Yeah, and eventually knocked him out.
And eventually knocked him out for the whole year. But they thought enough of him to keep him around, keep doing that. So, there are so many different guys that are playing a role in fighting for this battle. And what do you feel like the things are going to be that decide it? What are going to be the things with, again, no preseason games, just having practice to watch? How is that all going to shake out? Is it going to be more about who's already been here?
Yeah, and we've talked about this continuity thing and knowing the defense, and I've kind of made an analogy of Antoine Winfield, who Coach says he's going to factor in quickly, but it's tougher for him because he doesn't have the year under his belt in this defense. So the way I put it was, this defense really gelled and started to come together at the end of last year for the second half of last season. Sort of the train came out of the station, and they want to keep it moving. And the DBs this offseason talked about how they wanted to keep that momentum going by not only knowing their job, but doing a better job of knowing what the offense is going to do so that they can react more instinctively and quickly, right? Well, that train's moving, but Antoine Winfield sort of has to jump on while it's moving, right? And he can't pull him down. If he's messing up assignments, and I'm not saying he will, they say he's very smart, but he's a rookie, and he doesn't have a whole lot of preparation time. If he's messing up assignments, they're not going to have him on the field because we got plenty of candidates. And you even talked about Dakota Dixon. I think he's the real X factor, not necessarily in terms of the two starting jobs, although I'm sure he's competing for them, but in how many safeties you keep and how you order them on your depth chart. Because, like you said, he was an undrafted free agent out of Wisconsin, but they loved what he was doing on the practice field, to the point where he was moving up the depth chart very rapidly, and then unfortunately he had to miss the season. So this is his opportunity to actually build on what he did and prove that it wasn't just 2 or 3 weeks of a fluke. So we'll see. He's a great kid, smart kid, and he had a really good career at Wisconsin. So I think he's the real X factor in how you put that safety unit together.
Okay, well, when we come back, it's going to be our final segment, and we're going to take your questions from both Facebook and YouTube, so make sure you get those in now. We're going to have a little bit of a break here for you guys to get a chance to do that. So while you submit your questions, here's a look at the shots of the day.
Who the fastest on the team? Who you think the fastest? Me. I think I'm the fastest. Oh, wait. Dave. Oh, Dave. Easy, though.
Wait.
Yes, sir. Easy, dog.
Wait a minute.
Check the facts.
Wait a minute.
Check the facts.
Wait a minute.
Easy, dog. Check the facts.
Come on.
Ready? Mark. Go.
I was already at the finish line. I was already there.
Nick, huh? We're going really fast.
You gotta say, get set, go.
Tom Brady.
So I know that camp stuff, they're all kind of joking around and messing around, but I would pay good money to watch that Cyril Grayson versus Scotty Miller race.
Yeah.
I'd pay some money to watch that. Now, we're not going to do it because we don't want anybody to get hurt, but selfishly, I wish we could do that.
I get asked frequently in mailbags in here, so who's the fastest guy on the team, and I always forget about Cyril Grayson.
Yeah, that he was a sprinter.
He was like an NCAA champion sprinter. So
yeah,
maybe
he might have a shot. He might need to be in that conversation. Okay, well, this is where we take your questions every day from Facebook and YouTube, so let's dive into some of those. Daniel asked, do we still have the added coaches like last year where we can have more going on simultaneously on different fields so that second and third string players can be on film so that we can find that diamond in the rough?
Yeah, we still have the coaching depth that we need for that, but we are down 10 players. You know, we're at 80. We talked about that yesterday. We're at 80, not 90, and I think that makes it a little harder for them to do that. I haven't seen that yet. What he's talking about is Bruce Arians likes to split the practices into two. I think he would have done that a lot in the OTAs and all the offseason programs. We also talked about this yesterday, that because this is training camp compressed leading right up to the season, and there's no fans out here, so they don't have to display the team portions of practice, there's probably some more actual game planning and getting game strategies ready for those first few games going on than you would normally see at this point in a training camp. So I think the focus of this camp is a little bit different. And honestly, at the end there, he says, so we can find diamonds in the rough. That is going to be a tougher thing to do this year. I think we just all have to accept the fact that it's going to be harder to do. There's going to be less around the league, not just here. There's going to be less of those guys that kind of come out of nowhere.
Right, yeah.
Fewer, I should say.
A different Daniel, we have a lot of Daniels that watch our show, this is great, asked, do you guys think that only 2 quarterbacks might make the team since John Franklin also has some experience there?
Yeah, and it's possible, and Coach Arians has actually talked about John Franklin being, if he's active on game day, he can be your emergency third quarterback. So that's a possibility, sure. And actually, at several points in the last year and a half, Bruce Arians has said, when asked about this topic, that his preference on a 53-man roster would be to have 2 quarterbacks. As it turns out, for most of his time in Arizona and here last year, he's carried 3 basically out of necessity. So I don't know, we'll see. The other reason that could be more likely is you can put any player you want on the practice squad because there's 6 spots that you can use for a player of any experience, and generally you can't do that. So, and I'm just going to pick a name here. I'm not saying this is going to happen to him, but conceivably, if you went with Blaine Gabbert as your main backup, and you really wanted to keep Ryan Griffin around because you want that experienced guy that we've had here for 5 years and 1 year in Bruce's system, he is eligible for the practice squad. Now, that doesn't mean he has to sign here, but it is a concept that you could consider. So I'm just using an example there as how you could do 2 quarterbacks on the roster and stick a third one on the practice squad.
And Nick asked, who is winning the kick return job this year?
Who's going to win it? Not like who's doing best on the field, because I
can't
really
tell which way he means it, but you can answer kind of both. That one, we haven't gotten to see a whole lot in practice of it yet. It's still early.
We get reminded all the time when he's talking about how much Bruce Arians likes T.J. Logan. He really wanted to see him emerge after he drafted him in Arizona, but injuries held him back. And when Logan was cut by the Cardinals last year, he was very adamant about trying to get him, and he did on waivers. So he's really high on T.J. Logan. And honestly, he said the other day, including as a running back in offense, but I tend to think TJ's still going to get the first crack at this. And if he runs with it and does well, then he could probably have it the whole year. But I also would throw 2 of our draftees in there, Raymond Calais and Antoine Winfield, who I've seen getting some reps at that. So if one of those guys shows something on the field that looks impressive, maybe they'll get a shot. But without preseason games, how do you really know? You know, you don't really have real live reps. I know they're doing more live. Coach has kind of bemoaned that a couple times. He's doing more live special teams drills than he wants to do, but it's still not the same thing as a game. So it'll be hard for either of those rookies to unseat TJ Logan, which is why, if I'm a betting man, I'm sticking with the incumbent.
Right. Ryan asked, why did 75% of the DB group change their numbers?
I know. It's kind of a domino effect.
Yes.
You know, players change their numbers basically for a couple reasons. One is when they get here, they may have a number that they want, but somebody's got it, and it's just too much to try to make them move, right? Or they're an established player. So then that player, like last year when Sean Murphy-Bunting got here, he probably wanted 23, but Dion Buchanan was here, and Buchanan's a pretty established player and was wearing that number, so he had to choose something else. And then we no longer have Buchanan, and now he's got an opportunity to switch. And since it's pretty early in the career, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it was sort of a chain reaction because, Jordan Whitehead went to 33.
Yes.
Carlton Davis, thank you, Carlton Davis, for staying put.
Yeah.
I think he's the one guy who stayed. Carlton
I was going to
Davis
say, no,
did
Carlton
switch.
changed. Yeah, Jamel Dean. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamel Dean, for staying in 35, because it's really confusing trying to remember. Carlton moved to 24?
Yeah, he said, I thought, or
I
who
think
moved to
Jordan
23?
Whitehead went from 31 to 33, so now Anton Winfield's 31. It was
very
kind of a big
confusing.
domino effect.
And there was a lot of it is just kind of personal stories for them of why they wanted. I think Carlton said he was kind of trying to honor Kobe with his number.
Okay.
So that's why I was trying to remember what number I was like, wait. So I think he went to the
he's
Kobe
at
number.
24 now, right?
I thought so, but yeah, and now it's very confusing. See, we got to rememorize all these.
I
It's
agree
funny
with the questioner.
It's a great question, and it was funny. When we were showing a shot of practice the other day, and they were showing the DBs, I realized I was about to start talking about the wrong people because I'm still thinking of their old numbers. So we're gonna have to rememorize all of that. And speaking of the DBs, Evans asked, "Who do you see winning the nickel corner spot?"
Well, I don't see any reason why it would change from last year when in base package you started Carlton Davis on Sean Murphy-Bunting, and then in the nickel, which is what you're actually in the majority of snaps, Murphy-Bunting goes into the slot, and Jamel Dean comes in to play outside. And I think that's exactly how we'll start the season. So basically the answer is Sean Murphy-Bunting.
Right, yes, that's a really great point. And again, we take these questions on the final segment every day from the YouTube and Facebook. So let me see if I can find some of these. Those were mainly Facebook ones. From YouTube, we had a question asking which receiver has the best chemistry with Brady so far.
By the way, I'm impressed with your ability to switch back and forth.
Thank you. I'm not going to lie. If I space out at any point and don't hear you, it's probably because I'm reading 1,000
You just
things.
tell me I made a good point, even though you have no idea what I just said.
I mean, I'm sure either way, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
After 5 years of working together, it's always good points.
So I'm going to put that in your scouting report. It's very good at scouring 2 different applications for questions. So
Yes.
did you just give me one?
Yes, I did. Which receiver had the best chemistry with Brady so far?
Boy, I don't know. Mike Evans? I saw one practice where he threw the ball to Mike Evans a lot.
Yeah.
But
I think that the great news is when we don't have a specific answer, it means he has good chemistry with a lot of them already, which is something that I think everybody had talked a lot about of how quickly will that be a thing when they did miss so much time, all these reps, all this stuff in OTAs and minicamp, that was one of the biggest questions was building that chemistry because it's not typically something you can get overnight. But now it seems like he's got it with a lot of people. I know Scotty Miller mentioned in his media availability that on that long, 60-yard bomb, Scotty said something like Brady put it somewhere that he couldn't have put it any better if he had handed it off to him.
It's incredible, right?
That to me says that's some chemistry.
Yeah, I'd have to say the answer to this question is somebody that was there during those workouts that Brady organized off-site during the off-season, during the summer, and Scotty was among them. And he said that when asked about trying to win that third receiver job, he said a long answer, but at the end he's like, if I can get on the same page as Tom Brady, then I think I'll be in a good spot. I'm like, good answer. I very much agree with that.
Very good
Smart
answer.
Strategy right there.
That is very, very true.
He's very concerned about getting that chemistry with Tom Brady.
And I saw we had another one from YouTube asking about if there was an update on Tyler Johnson's injury.
He still wasn't practicing yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches called it a soft tissue injury. And so whenever you have those muscle injuries, it's hard to say when they're going to come back from it. We've seen guys come back quickly. We've seen them linger on. We are not inside because we can't go inside. They went in there because of the rain. So we don't know if Tyler Johnson's practicing today yet, but he wasn't practicing yesterday.
And that is, I realized that we did talk about the fact that they had moved inside because of the rain. We didn't actually explain why we can't go in there. That is part of the COVID protocols because it is indoors. They have some different rules for there versus outside. Our tier that we are in, we are not allowed. I know in our little tier 3 that we're in, we are not allowed to go inside. So that's the whole reason that we didn't just kind of pick up and move the show in there. We are not allowed in there. But
yeah,
at least
if we went in there, everybody would point at us and howl.
Get out! And our things would probably start beeping at us. Our little tracers would start beeping at us, telling us we're somewhere we're not supposed to be. So yes, that was the motivation for that. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're sorry we couldn't show you more of practice. Hopefully the weather will cooperate more tomorrow because we will be back here tomorrow morning at the start of practice once again for you guys, here's again a reminder of our training camp live schedule. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.